So here we all are again then. December, how did that happen? It's just like the year's just gone whoosh, isn't it? Time is a strange thing. In fact, this month has been really a little bit like time travel for me, to be honest. I've spent most of it, as I've said to you before, probably doing this, the rerun of An Obsession with Carp, remastered, which is finally finished. That's gone off to the printers. But yeah, so I've spent like most of my time recently, all my spare time, I don't get a lot of spare time, but any time I've made spare, I've spent staring at the computer, really. It's been a labour of love and other stuff. Redoing all the photography in there, or redoing all the photos in there. They're all original photos, but all the words have remained the same. But I've literally been sat there just scanning slides and prints and what have you, and putting them in Lightroom and changing the colours and the hues and the tones and the saturation and God knows what else. I didn't know what I was doing to start with, but I'm quite an expert now. 185 photos later. Well, I can see my breath in here, it's so cold. Yeah, so it has been a little bit like time travel, which I'm absolutely obsessed with, by the way. All the books I read are, a lot of the books I read are time travel or space and time and the universe and all of that sort of stuff. You know, that's just my bag, if you like. And apart from, like, you know, the obvious time aspects of doing all these old photos, looking back through time, doing all the stuff for the book, it's been time travel on another scale, really, because I've been back to the past. A great deal of that book is set at Horton and Wraysbury. I suppose Wraysbury's the main, the bones of the book, you know, the main sort of focus of the book, if you like. Now, Wraysbury happens to be on the ticket that I own at the moment. As you all know, I've been fishing the Island Lake all year. Now, Island Lake is Kingsmead Island, and it's part of the RK Leisure Complex, which also includes Wraysbury 1 and Wraysbury 2 and Horton and Horton Church Lake, K1, Island Lake, which is actually K2, and a couple of other smaller lakes. And because of the book, and because I've been doing all of this time immersing myself in the past at Wraysbury, I thought, well, it's on my ticket, you know, it would be fitting, very fitting, as I put the book to bed, to go to Wraysbury and actually fish it again. It's different now in as much as it used to be all one lake, and now it's been split in two. So it's Wraysbury North Lake and Wraysbury South Lake, and the North Lake is the half with the big fish in. You know, it's got some proper big fish in there. So I actually took the proofs for the book, the final proof, the day I had to press the button to let it go off to the printers. I was sat in a bivvy on Wraysbury with all the proof sheets and a pen doing the last minute corrections and going through, you know, there was quite a few spelling errors and typos in the first book. It was my first book. So yeah, going through all of that, and then eventually, you know, I phoned up the publishers and went through the little bits and pieces I wanted changed, and then said, right, press the button. And he pressed the button and it's gone off to the printer. So that job is done, and that should be back with me about the 10th, 12th, something like that, of January. So I'll be in touch with everybody about pre-orders and that. I'm getting a lot of questions, when can people order it, but that will all be out there in social media land before you know it. So a little sip of tea, because it is cold. I'm sure my nose is glowing. So I've now been to Wraysbury 4 times, every session this month. And I started off in the Rocky Barge. Now, the Rocky Barge is a swim that holds loads of memories for me. I used to absolutely love it in there back in the day. So that was the first place I visited. Fish love it down here in these snags as well. All these fallen trees. If you look underneath them, it's gin clear. And when you look down on the bottom, the bottom's all shiny where the silt's been displaced, where they spend so much time in there. I've checked in there today, there's nothing, but I think when the water's a bit warmer, prime spot that. So it's about 8 o'clock in the morning. Still no bites, unfortunately, but still so many carp out there. I'm actually fishing my two sort of longer rods straight towards what is actually the style swim, which is, I'm going to do some light adjustment in a sec. There. Let's get that at the top of the screen. Level you up a bit. So yeah, I'm fishing out there at about just over 100 yards. 104 yards actually, to be precise. Most of the fish, to be honest, are just a tiny bit further than that. But some have been right on me, but I'd say the bulk of them are just out of my range. I've got my sinking braid on, so that's my maximum. But if I come back, which I might well do next week, I'm going to put different braid on. But there is somebody in this style, otherwise I would be, because they seem to be from just the back of my area across towards him. Quite a lot of them are well within range of that side. See if I can brighten that up a little bit. There we go. It will give you much better indication at range though, braid, obviously, because there's no stretch in it. But you do have to be a bit careful by using it. I sliced a big slice out the back of my finger. Oh, there's one. Oh, there's one. He was a bit of a trout. Quite a few of the others have been slightly larger than that one. But that's where they're showing, and that's probably from here about 30 wraps. So, although I didn't manage to bag anything from the rocky barge that week, as you can see, I was seeing quite a lot of fish over that other side in the style. I've just so liked it there, and I just thought, oh, I've got to come back. I sort of made up my mind there and then that I was going to do a few weeks on the famous Raspberry one. And if at all possible, I was going to get on the other bank the coming week, and as it happens, I managed it. So here we are. The style. This is my plot. Nice swim. It's always been a good swim, even way back in the day. Little island close in. Long island out there. Or an island out there long. Rocky barge over there in the centre screen. On far bank, Springgates Point, centre screen. So over the course of the day I had a good old thrash about out there. It's a very, very weedy swim, but I managed to find 3 spots I was proper happy with. In fact, I found 4 spots. I only had 3 rods, couldn't make up my mind which I was going to fish. So I ended up baiting up all 4 spots. Just a fair bit, I suppose. Couple of pound of bait, pound of particles, the monster mix, and a pound of chopped shell on each one. So good half a bucket over the 4 spots. Got all my rigs out there. Sort of checked them, put them down there, left them for a couple of minutes. I find if you do that and then slide them really gently, you'll see if it's a proper clear spot or if you've just been dropping down amongst the weed. Yeah, all looked good. I went to bed pretty confident, I'd say, especially as I'd seen so many fish over there the week before. And I knew a couple of people who were fishing the lake and they said they'd pretty much been holding up there for weeks. So, yeah, turned in for the night, feeling good about the world. A bizarre thing sort of occurred
just before light, about an hour or so. It must have been about, I don't know, 4:30 in the morning. I was woken up by, I'd heard fish boshing, and the more I looked, I couldn't see where they were, but the more I looked in the direction they were showing, they were on typically the fourth spot that I baited and wasn't fishing. And I thought, first light's got to be for best bite time. So I got up and I wound in. I had to make a choice of which of the 3 rods to wind in. So I chose a rod, wound it in. I was just about to wrap it up and cast it out on the fourth spot where I thought the fish were. And one of the remaining 2 rods ripped off. And I was just like, how lucky was that? I could just as easily have picked up that rod that I got the bite on. And I had this fish on. I didn't think it was a big one to start with. It weeded me up solid. I had to put the rod down for ages and just leave it. Eventually it swam out the weed and I've got this fish in, and I put the head torch on. It's gin clear down there. I wanted to see him coming up through the depths, and the higher up he got through the water, I could just see like a dish down there, and it just grew and grew and grew and grew. As it went in the net, I was like, oh my God, look at the size of that thing. So here we go. Look at that. I don't know. It looks like one of the suttons to me, but I know it's called no name. I don't know its origin, but it is massive. Look at that crinkly old tail on it. What an absolute... I bloody love it here, I do. I think it loves me. Oh, man, you are some carp. Look at the other side. Oh. Oh. That's the way to do it. Just touch that screen. And all before breakfast, eh? What a touch. Thank you very much, Raspberry One.
So how about that for a welcome back then? So you can see one thing led to another. My Rocky Barge session led to some better carp location, if you like, which in turn led to me luckily getting in the style. It is a very popular swim. The fish do like it out there. But I was fortunate, good timing, just turned up at the right time, walked round there, couldn't believe it, the swim was empty, dropped my bucket in there and bang, and the rest, as you see, is history. I mean, what a carp. An incredible beast, that fish. Those suttons, I don't know how aware you are of the sutton strain of carp. Simon Scott and Viv Shears very instrumental in bringing those on, bringing them to us, if you like. In fact, Viv messaged me when he see the picture go up of that fish. We had a little chat, online sort of chat, and he remembers them going in to the Douglas Lane in Rosebery One, and being reared, reared from nothing, from tiddlers. They're proper carp. And to me, they're sort of, the suttons are a bit of almost like the saviour of the modern carp scene, if you like. And that might sound a bit dramatic, but for the sort of fish that I like, I mean, they're gorgeous. I remember last February I had one out of K1 called the Posh, and that was one of the suttons as well.
I couldn't be happier. I really couldn't. Look at him.
And not only, did I have that absolute beast of a fish, I managed to follow it up with 2 more fish as well. I had, I think it was an upper double stocky or thereabouts. I didn't weigh that one. Lovely fish, beautiful, the new fish that are going in there. Dark, very, very dark, scaly fish. And I had a very, very angry 24-pound common, which I photographed up just on the path behind me. Looked very autumnal. It looks like this. There he is. Mr. Angry Common. Gore, you beat me up, didn't you, mate? Nice. Okay, let's get you back in the pond. So that's how my session in the style ended. 3 fish under my belt. I was well chuffed with that. And a very, very, very nice welcome back to Raspberry present in the form of that great big monster. I've been down there twice more since, and I haven't managed to get back in that swim, unfortunately. It does seem very popular. Seems to be the first one to go, to be honest, but yeah, it's going to be that way, isn't it? You know, quite often in the winter the fish hang out in an area, and that's the way it is. But it isn't just that swim, to be honest. There you know, are other swims in at that end of the lake that are showing signs of fish and doing the odd bite, to be honest. My next trip down was also to a very memorable swim for me. It was a swim that I first built myself. Me and Tench bloke cut it out when we was fishing over there, sort of practically full time. And it doesn't actually have, well, it's got a name now. It's called Blake's now, and it's a lot different now. It's a proper swim. When I cut it out, it was just big enough for a bivvy, and the water was up to the door. And we never did get round to naming it, but that's where I headed off to on my next trip. Back here. And why wouldn't I be after last time? And this week we are going to the North Lake. We're currently here, and we're going to there. It's now called, well, swim 3 on here, but it's called Blake's. But originally, you know what I'm going to say next, don't you? Back in the day, sound like bloody granddad off of Fools and Horses. During the war, me and Tench bloke set up here. That was Tench bloke, and there were no swims here. So all of this was very bushy and woods, really, and then the grass peninsula behind. So me and Tench bloke dug a swim out, cut a swim out here. And if you've read my first book, which I'm just republishing at the moment, there's a story in there of making this swim where this German bloke turned up that we didn't know on a tour of Raspberry, and we got him to drag a big tree out the margins. He was a big bloke and we weren't. We made the swim there, and only about a week or so into our working life, one morning, about half an hour before we were due to get up, I had a bite and I caught a cluster from out here somewhere. 36 pounds I think he was, and that was pretty much the end of our working lives. We decided if we could get bites, it was late in the year like this, sort of November, I think it was November, maybe October. I thought if we could get bites then we'd stay here. We fished on and on and on, and we never had another bite. But there we go. So we're going in a swim that I originally made. Is obviously now they've all been redone, and this one's added. This one was made later on. This used to be called Rocket Runs, after the bailiff who liked to fish in there. So there we go. A little bit of history about this section that we're going to head to this week. Well, I think we are anyway. We're going to go and sit and look in here. I've already seen one fish about where that K is, I suppose. No, because that's in the rocky barge. There's a dot island there. One fish about there, sorry. This morning. So yeah, we're going to go and have a look anyway. There we go. Back at Raspberry. Loving it. So I did indeed set up in that swim. It's now called Blake's, like I say, but we didn't even give it a name back then, but it was the scene of my second ever Raspberry carp capture with cluster.
Unfortunately, it wasn't the scene of any more captures on this particular session. But from that side of the lake, you just get some amazing skies at night. It's just the best view looking out there. The sun obviously sets right behind those trees behind the island. All the birds take off from the island in the morning. It's lovely.
So although I didn't catch on that trip, it's still, as you can see, it's lovely, the view from that side of the lake. Not only have you got the sunsets over the back there, but you've got the jackdaws, thousands, hundreds of thousands of the bloody things. They come over from wherever, somewhere in the west every evening. And they come over and it's like a scene out of Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds, you know, it's just black with them as they come over. And sometimes they settle, like they did on this session, on that little round island. Quite often they settle in the woods behind you or on what we call 10 Acre Island, which is on the South Lake, directly behind where I was fishing. But they're quite a sight to behold. And they're loud. When they take off in the morning, it's like they do it of a single mind. You know, they all get a bit jittery and you can hear them all squawking and stuffling about and what have you. And then suddenly there's like a big whoosh of air, a big all in a split second, and the whole lot leave and take off in this big black cloud and circle about a little bit, and then they make their way back out into the west to wherever it is they go in the day. I suppose raping farmers' fields or something. I don't know what jackdaws by the thousand do in the day. But that's definitely where they come back to every night. So my most recent trip was this week. What is it now? It's Thursday today, and that would have been on Monday. I had an absolute nightmare. I always get up in the summer. I leave at stupid o'clock, but even in the winter I like to beat the traffic. So I left here about 6, I suppose, which would have got me there at maybe 5:30. I don't know, early 6 o'clock I think it was. Got halfway into half an hour into my journey and realised I'd left my phone at home, which sometimes I'd think I'll sod the phone, but on this particular occasion I had to meet up with Rob Malin, who was picking up some books off me, so I needed the phone to say where and when to meet and what have you, so it was all a bit of a nightmare. It was also my birthday on the Tuesday the 1st of December. Now I don't often fish on my birthday. I think I've only ever fished on my birthday once before. And that was pretty memorable, to be honest. I was fishing up in Peterborough, Peterborough area, on Norvey Park Lake, and I was trying to chase down a particular very large common called kitch. And for some reason I decided I was going fishing on my birthday. I got there, the weather was disgusting. It was a freezing cold wind. I think it was a northerly. There was a little bit of sort of rain in the air. It wasn't nice. I was the only person on the lake, and I was sat there. It was after dark in the evening of my birthday, and I'm sat there in the bivvy thinking, what the hell am I doing here? You know, I could be at home with a family, a bottle of wine, nice steak dinner or whatever, but here I am, just me and the dog in this bivvy, sheltering from the wind, you know. And I remember crawling into bed I think it was about 9:15, and thought, some birthday this is. And then at 9 o'clock, I had 3 or 4 beeps on one of my rods, nothing much. I was only fishing right close in, about 20 yards. There was it's very shallow, Norvey Park, and the swans could do you everywhere. Everywhere you put bait, the swans could do you. But I'd found this one little depression. I'd been out in the punt a few weeks before and found this little tiny depression in the lake bed about 20 yards in front of me. And it was just a few inches deeper than a swan could reach. They used to come over and see your bait, and they'd go down and they'd be paddling in the air and bobbing up and down, trying to get that last, can you imagine their beaks just above your bait? And eventually they'd give up and bugger off. So I managed to keep a bit of bait going in this spot. And had just a few beeps and got out, and I remember looking at the bobbin, and it was almost like it was breathing, it was just going up, down, not doing anything. At that close range, there was no screaming take or nothing, just this. And after a minute or two, I thought something's definitely going on there, and I've sort of tightened down, and it felt pretty solid, and I've swept the rod up over my head, and this happened.
There he is. £50, 4 ounces.
No, we'll be good. Back where he massive. Look at the width of him. Away he goes. Oh, coming back. Sing happy birthday to me. Quite looks big down there, doesn't he? Oh yes. Happy birthday, Lane.
So not a bad birthday present, eh? Over £50 of UK common on the 1st of December. So this year I thought, you never know, maybe that long sutton I was talking about, maybe he's got, you know, my name emblazoned across his flanks for my birthday. Maybe he's wrapped in wrapping paper for me. So eventually I got to the lake, like I say, well late. There was two people on, one at the far end and the other one obviously in the swim, the style, which I'd have preferred to go in. And he was only just setting up, and I thought, if it wasn't for the phone thing, you know, would I have made it there? Wouldn't I have made it there? Would I have got to swim? But whatever. I decided to set up in a swim on the end of the first bit of the lake you come into, where the road and that is on the sort of Dredger Bay Peninsula. It's not the Dredger Bay, but it's the start of the peninsula that comes in. And I set up in a swim that was, funnily enough, the swim I caught my very first ever raspberry carp from, a swim called the Diving Board. I caught malins from there at £36, and you know, can you imagine, that was an incredible thing. I'd come from Horton, I'd gone on raspberry. It'd taken a while for me to get a bite, and I'd eventually got a bite, and I'd got this fish. So, you know, the swim for me, full of memories. It has actually moved a little bit. It was a few 10-20 yards up to the right, but it's called the Diving Board, and it's got the same vista in front of it. It's actually the round island I was fishing to the week before. It's the other side, not the other side, the style's the other side. The Blake swim is that side, and I'm now fishing that way. So I'd done the night in there, didn't have anything, and in the morning I see a couple of fish. There's a swim just to my left called the Dugout, and I see a couple of fish out there. This is my birthday morning, and thought, it's got to be worth it. It's only just there, so I've sort of just dragged everything up there and bundled it in a big heap. It's a very, very weedy swim. I've cast in about, and it's one of them, isn't it, when you've got a lot of weed out there, the more you cast, the more you think, I'm just ruining the swim here. But what do? You know, 18 foot of water, and you're halfway down with your lead, and you feel as it hits the top of the weed, and then it goes down through the weed, and you think, I'm fishing under 9 foot hedge of weed here. So I cast and cast and cast. I managed to get a spot that was definitely clear, a spot that was maybe clear, and a spot that I fooled myself was clear but really wasn't. Anyway, set the rods up, and next to the swim was a fire pit, sort of 3.5 foot in diameter, about the size of this table, proper metal fire pit with tiles inlaid. I don't know whose it is, but it's there, it's part of the lake. Pile of logs on that, and I thought, it's got to be the one, hasn't it, for your birthday? So fired it all up. So I've got this lovely fire pit going. I've cooked burgers for lunch on there. I even done my steaks in the evening on it. I got my kettle and put a half bottle of mulled wine in my kettle and balanced it between two logs in the fire pit. Warmed up my old mulled wine. So I had a really, really lovely day. But at 1 o'clock, I think it was, in the afternoon, middle of the day, I've had a bite. And I'm like, whoa, yeah, maybe it is. Maybe it is that long sutton.
There we go, nice little birthday present. £22. Raspberry 1 mirror. Happy birthday to me. Nice. Well, this is the way to live it up on your birthday, isn't it? Raspberry 1, fire pit, carp under my belt. Just cooked myself a nice sirloin steak on there. Bit of garlic seasoning and some melted cheese. Bloody lovely. Happy birthday, Laney. We've got a very nearly full moon up there. Yesterday's full moon. All in all, life is good. Very good indeed.
So all in all, it's been a memorable month and a month full of memories, really. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and although I will be going back to K1 at some stage, well, I say I probably will. I'm not making any definite decisions, but I'm certainly going to be staying on Raspberry 1 for at least till after Christmas. It's got to be done, There's just some beautiful fish in there. I like it, and I'm getting a good feeling back from the lake. And as long as you're happy where you've got to be happy where you're fishing, haven't you? At this time of year, it is a bit miserable. It is a bit dark for long periods of time. You've got to be happy in your own skin, sat there in your bivvy on your own, thinking, I like it here. Rather than thinking you're struggling to do it just for the sake of it. And I'm certainly not doing that. I'm loving every minute of it. But there you go. Anyway, I've got a job to do, sticking up the Christmas tree, and I've got to edit this obviously and get it out to you. And it is late, and I apologise for that. But it's there's been stuff going on with this and whatever. It should be the end of the month, but it's now the beginning of the month. So hopefully I'll get another blog together before Christmas, and wish you all happy Christmas then. But if I don't, if I'm late again, then have a lovely Christmas, and I will speak to you all soon. So take care, catch a big fish, and thank you for being there. Ta-da.